What if the key to standing out in a crowded online health industry isn't some flashy new marketing trick, but a deeper understanding of who you actually help and why they should work with you? In today's episode, I'm joined by one of our incredible NBA clients, Zach Lewandowski. He's a personal trainer turned online health coach who now helps busy, high achieving professionals in their 40s and beyond get real, lasting results with fat loss and sustainable habit change. Zach's business journey over the past 10 months is a powerful example of what's possible when you stop trying to do all the things and start focusing on what actually moves the needle. From refining his positioning and messaging to rebuilding trust in the business coaching industry after some seriously shady experiences, yes, big lawsuits included, Zach shares what worked, what didn't, and how he's created a business that actually feels good to run. Let's get into it. I am so excited to have with us on today's show, Zach Lewandowski. Welcome to the Nourished CEO podcast, Zach.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit before we hit record about some of the things I didn't know about Zach's story. So I'm going to let him tell whatever you guys want to hear. But I asked Zach to come on the show today because we were looking to highlight our clients, especially the ones that are really the action takers who do what we teach. And, even when things are hard or uncomfortable, they take action and then are able to get awesome results. So Zach is one of those clients who has been able to achieve some really awesome results in the last like just under a year since we started working together, maybe like 10 months, I think, from the time of this recording. So, Zach, just to give everyone a little just peek into you and your business, do you want to just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, who you work with, and then we can go from there?
Yeah, so just a little bit of my backstory. I started and got in this industry really when I was 17 years old. I started as a personal trainer, working in my college gym, and then also work with athletes at a sports performance gym. Got a job out of school, went through college for nutrition and dietetics. COVID happened. I was like, hey, I need to actually do something. And all the clients I had from one-on-one in-person personal training just reached out and was like, hey, I would love to focus on online, and then just started doing nutrition. And then 5 years later, it's turned into this. So I currently work with a lot of white collar, like 40 to 55 individuals, just kind of always on the go, traveling, fat loss specifically, and more of a habit based mindset focused. I think one of the biggest things, and you've helped me with this, is getting clear on who I help, which I've always struggled with, and just kind of setting myself apart. So that was a huge help when you
Yeah.
and I started.
Yeah. I remember because I think our first actual paid interaction was the one on one strategy session. And we had spent an hour together on that call, and I from what I remember, of course, I could be wrong because I was pregnant, and it's like if you're having a baby, your memory just gets, wiped like it's Men in Black or something, but I feel like most of what we focused on was your positioning and your messaging. Is that what you remember?
Yeah, I think it was all of it.
Like your website and your Instagram bio and stuff that it seems so basic, but I feel like when I was looking at your stuff, I was like, "Okay, this is kind of foundational that we really need to fix this," because I don't have to tell you that you're in a really crowded space.
Yeah.
I feel like anytime there's somebody who's really educated, good at what they do, and just, wants to do a good job, sometimes it's easy to just blend in with everybody else. So that
Yeah.
was an issue I think I saw for your stuff was it was there was no opportunity for you to really stand out to the people that you could best serve with the original messaging that you had.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to, because and as you've said this before, when you're educated and you don't stand out in the gut health or promoting these gimmicky buzzwords, it is tough to stand out in this space. So you need to be very, very specific in who you help and how you help, which is, exactly what you and I focused on.
So tell me about the process of getting more specific. Was that something you felt like I just told you here's what to do and you're like, "Cool, let's do it," or was there any resistance to that?
No, I think so. How it was different because I've had mentors before, and the way they show it and tell you, you're like, oh yeah, this is super specific. Because before I was like, hey, I help people lose, 15 plus pounds and through nutrition coaching. And then they get it to the point where it's like, oh, busy professionals. And I think you were the first person to actually sit down and I was like, hey, here are exactly what my clients say, and we put it all together in a document and like really broke it down. And then it wasn't like the first thing we came up with was cool, just go with that. It was like refining it over and over, but also actually listening to me and what felt true to me and wasn't just like, here's what you need to do, do this.
Mhm. Had that been your experience with other mentors or coaches where they're just like, "Go say this and don't ask questions?"
Yeah, because it was like, "Hey, here's my strategy. This is what's working. Do this." And
Mhm.
that's kind of where I struggled because I wasn't willing to sacrifice the way I coach for like the way, I show up on social media, which was tough. So, yeah, most of the time it's like, "Hey, this is what's working. Here's what you should do." And it never aligned.
Yeah. Well, because when you say it like, I help 45 plus year old busy professionals lose 15 pounds. I mean, there's probably what, 1,000
Probably
other.
more than that.
It's like,
Way more than that, unfortunately.
yeah. And listen, it's not to say competition is inherently a bad thing. I will say the fact that there's so many people doing it means there's a big demand for it. Right. So it's not like, you have to be so unique that there's 3 people in the entire world that you could actually connect with to solve their problem. But when there is that much competition, you do have to go that many more layers deep with specificity, even just with the language. I think that was the thing that was really missing for your stuff when we started working together was it's not like we massively changed the person that you were trying to attract. We just got way more detailed and visual and just descriptive with how you were creating your content so that those people would actually feel like you understood them. Is that what your experience was like?
Yeah, it was because I mean, just like you said, I didn't feel like I had to overhaul everything completely, but there were specific things in my messaging and like wording that really didn't stand out. And like to me, I was like, oh, this is so specific. I'm doing great. Obviously, I wasn't because I came to you for help. And I think the one thing that you said that like really stuck out with me was the painkiller versus vitamin content,
Mm.
where like that just really stuck. So now, like putting together content, I always think why would somebody even care about this? What would they benefit from this? But like, why now? Not
Mhm.
just like a nice to have, because sometimes, especially fat loss, I mean, it can be like I'll start my goals by December or in the new year, which has always
Mhm.
been a thing.
Mhm. Or you run into the people who they think, "Well, I can just figure it out myself."
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
Which,
"Okay, I just keep going to the gym, just keep, hacking away at it, and one of these days it'll finally work."
yeah. Or the other piece too, where like most people think, I'll just do whatever it takes to see a lower scale number. And then 2 years from now, they realize that wasn't the way of doing it, but it takes that length of time for them to notice it.
Mhm. So rather than talking to the person who needs that 2-year come to Jesus moment, you're like, "Let me just speak to the people who have already gotten to that place and are ready to
Right.
do something different."
Yes, the ones who've tried everything and have struggled in the past and, like, know they are ready for a better approach to it.
Yeah, cool. So how does that change what you do on a day-to-day basis? Because obviously, when you and I did that call, I think I, like, literally wrote website copy for you on that call, if
Yeah.
I'm remembering correctly. So other than just like the actual let's rewrite this because I know you had hired a web designer and maybe I don't want to make assumptions, but to me when I was reading the copy, I was like, this kind of reads like ChatGPT just wrote it. And I am not against using ChatGPT for content creation, but if you're not putting any detail into the prompts to give a very specific output, it literally is like, you know, uncover the 3 biggest reasons why you're stuck and feeling frustrated. And it's like, okay, what does that even mean? Right. So
Right.
how does that depth of specificity and really just like peeling back some layers as to what your actual ideal client is thinking, what they're, worried about, what they want, what they've tried, how is all of that then affecting how you even show up on a day-to-day basis in your business?
I think I'm at the point now where I'm not just trying to, like, push out a bunch of content, right? What you hear is, like, the more the better. Where now I'm focusing on just being very specific and detailed, and I'm not worried about trying to go viral or gain the most followers. It's like, hey, even if I have 100 people, I'm going to focus on how I can truly help those 100 people very specifically instead of trying to speak to every single person like I was in the past. Like when I first started, I was like, oh, if somebody wants to lose fat, like I'm willing to work with them. they're a good fit. Where now, like, I have said no multiple times after getting on a sales call because I truly don't think they're a good fit.
And how do you make that determination?
A couple things. It usually comes down to sometimes, and I don't know how crazy this is gonna sound, is like just from talking to somebody, you know if you get along well on that call and like if you even want to go through the coaching experience with this person because I've done that in the past and it ends up being more of a headache for you as a business owner
Mhm.
than like benefiting from it. So sometimes I can usually just tell from like past experiences of this reminds me of this person. I'm going to like dig much deeper. Not going to make a judgment about them, but I'm definitely going to be a little more cautious. I think the biggest one is the people who are like always asking, well, can we do this or can you change this? And aren't willing to put their trust in you
Mm.
because they've tried everything else in the past that didn't work, but they're still kind of stuck to that.
Mhm. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that because I do think I see that with a lot of the business coaching conversations that I have where people are like, there's so much in their head about the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things, what they've tried, what works, what doesn't work, so that they'll come into these sales conversations with like 85 questions about every single little micro detail about how we do things. And you're right, like that does belie a sense of distrust. And we'll get into this because I do understand why people are experiencing high levels of distrust with business coaches right now. But that shows up in the health and wellness space too, where people are not trusting the person that they're speaking to. So, what would be some of the red or yellow flags that you're seeing in a sales conversation that tells you that somebody's not going to trust the process of working with you?
This is a tough one, I think, because it's also a fine line, especially I really do enjoy like the behavioral change mindset aspect of coaching. So I understand if somebody's gone through this, they're already very nervous to put their
Mhm.
trust in something else when 10 other things haven't worked before. Right. So I get that. So it's kind of that fine line. I don't want to just like say, oh, this person isn't a good fit.
They ask one question,
Um,
it's like, no, it's done.
yeah. I think it's more of like as we're going through in those guiding questions, a big one I can think of is like how ready are you to commit 1 through 10. Usually, if they're somewhere in that like 5 or 6, I know that they're not going to be fully committed, and there's going to be some excuse. Or I was asked like, is there something that's going to come up in these next 6 to 10 months that you feel like will pull you away from your goals? And then they just throw it on me of like, oh yeah, I'm traveling, a month here, and then I'm going to Germany, and then I have like, a big birthday party that lasts this weekend, and this weekend. So they're already kind of like pre setting themselves up in a way of like those excuses before.
Mhm. So it's more like, yeah, I'm going to Germany and I'm not gonna be able to do anything while I'm there versus saying, I'm going to Germany and I want somebody who I can stay on track with while I'm there.
Right. It's weird the people who have I could think of the exact person. I won't say names, but it's like, hey, I have this travels. I'll be there for 4 weeks. Can we just take a break? And then when I come back, we'll start back up. And I'm like, the whole reason you've reached out is because you get thrown off track from traveling or vacations or weekends. So yeah, it's just and like I said, it's a very fine line because like you want to truly help that person, but also as a business owner, you can't just like change for every single person and bend the rules.
Well, and you can't want it more than they want it, right? If it's like, well, I'm
Right.
take a bunch of time off. Obviously, if it's like I'm going on vacation for a week, so I'd like to not be thinking about it, that's one thing. But if it's like I'm gonna be gone for 2 months and I'm gonna, just take a break altogether for those 2 months, it starts to be kind of like, "Oh, is that really the best experience for both of us? Are you actually gonna get the best results if you're looking for ways to not stay committed to the goal," right? So, I mean, I totally see that I guess that's just humans, right? I see that in business all the time where somebody's like, "Well, I'm going on vacation." We get a lot of I've not figured this out yet. We get a lot of applications that come in, and I've never seen any of them actually pay and join, where it's like, I'm about to go on vacation like tomorrow. And I'm always thinking, like, why did you submit this application like the day before you're leaving on a 2 week European vacation, right? It's so odd to me. I'm like, I would have waited until I got back before I start trying to make any, big moves or anything. Certainly not like apply to work with somebody and then like ghost for 2 weeks. But I feel like it's universal human behavior. So it is something maybe it'll just remain a mystery. So you mentioned that some of your people, probably a lot of people at this point. This is something I talk about a lot because I think people underestimate how many experiences people have had with other coaches, programs, courses, whatever, like the online space. They've tried other stuff, it didn't work, and now they have this kind of like, just this guard up around, okay, is this just going to be another waste of money? So have you seen that? Because you said you've been doing it for 5 years. So you started during COVID. I always look at like 2020 through 2022 was like the explosion of online.
And
Honestly, it was kind of like shooting fish in a barrel to get clients. And now it's a little bit more, I would say normal, maybe a little tougher, but like probably more normal than most of the experience of like the post COVID online boom. Are you seeing this trend where maybe in, 2020, 2021, it was a lot easier to sell versus now where people are more skeptical, people have a lot more questions, people have had bad experiences before?
yeah, 100%. I think 2020, 2021 business was a completely different ballgame. And it was like, hey, put out a free lead magnet or resource, DM conversation, and they sign up.
Mhm.
Um, Now it is completely different. Like trust, like you said, is at an all-time low. And it seems like it's taking 2 to 3 times the amount of time to like nurture each person before they may even sign up. It might even just be like, hey, we'll hop on a call and have a conversation. It might not even lead to like anything further than that.
Mhm. So what have you had to do to adapt to that? Because I think there's a lot of people who are experiencing that because they have been in business for a few years and they don't really know what the heck they're supposed to do about it.
I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier was just getting very, very specific in who you speak to and not trying to speak to every single person. But I think the biggest change that I noticed, and even when you and I were doing one on one and going through my sales process, like I was following your was the 75 or
Oh, this
or when
yeah.
you're yeah,
75
yeah.
rich.
75 rich. Like even just those and following up with old leads, which is just something that always falls on the back burner. I feel like for so many coaches are just following up with like leads, reaching out in the DMs and just truly showing value and like that you care. And I think that was such a big help because you're going back to those people that have shown interest in you instead of just trying to get new eyes on everything all the time, which was,
Mhm.
in 2020, you get a new eye on your like program or content and they're like, "Hey, let's work together."
Mhm.
And like I said, it's not that case now. So you need to like nurture those people that actually have shown interest and not just try to always bring in new people that are the coldest.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many people that we work with that have said things like, well, I haven't heard from them in a while, so I'm embarrassed to reach back out. And hopefully, if you're listening, you're hearing Zach saying that actually reaching out to people that you have had conversations with is an important strategy because, one, if they showed interest in the first place, they're likely a warmer potential client than someone who just found you yesterday. But to your point, I do think people appreciate being followed up with because I mean, unless you're just like doing it in a gross way, which of course there's probably ways you could do it that would not be appreciated. But if you're really truly checking in to say, how is everything going? Are you still looking for help with this? Just offering the opportunity to help them. I just think that with a lot of people, they look at DMing as like, let me just talk to as many possible people, and just like spray messages across like hundreds of people. And it's just like, who else can I talk to? Who else can I talk to? And I do think
Right.
whether it's clear to the person or it's just that like kind of icky sensation that they get, like, I don't know, this seems kind of, like a money grab. I do feel like that type of a DM approach where you're just talking to like tons of people, no follow up, no attention to what they're saying. That actually is a huge turnoff to people now, especially because there are so many people sending those DMs versus if you're doing what you do and you circle back and say, hey, I just wanted to check in on you. I know last time you said XYZ and I wanted to hear, are you still dealing with that? Like remembering or not even remembering, sometimes it's just having notes, right? Like notes on the detail. You
Yeah.
don't have to remember everything, but personalizing it and making them feel like you actually care because you do. That is the kind of DM follow-up that I feel like a lot of people should be doing that they're not because they have this thought in their head that sending DMs to somebody who's already talked to them is gross or, pushy or salesy or, oh, I just feel so uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the way you go about it. You can do it in, I'm sure, a very slimy, like gross salesy way, but instead of trying to focus on, how many DMs can I send, I'm like, hey, what are the highest quality 5 messages I can send? So if I've had somebody who answers like 5 of my story polls but has never responded, and I can see like, hey, they struggle with late night snacking, this, and this, then I've hopped on Loom and done like a screen recording where I'll go through my presentation or slideshow and like make it specific to them of like, hey, here's what I would focus on. And not even if we work together, like, here's some things I would recommend and focus on. And then if they watch that and see like tons of value, again, even if we never work together, it's just showing the value, helping them. And then that has led to clients because it's just such high quality and they actually get something out of it instead of instantly just feeling sold to.
Yeah, I love that. I should do that more often. I feel like I have to get better at doing like voice memos and videos and stuff because half the time I'm sending messages to people, I'm literally like nursing a baby or like next to a sleeping baby. So it's a little harder to do that. But I love that idea. And I hope that some of the listeners will try that out because it sounds really effective. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit because you're one of the people I always think of when I think about being burned by previous investments and still moving forward with a big one. I mean, at this point, I think you've probably spent at least like over 10 grand to work with me. So not like, $100 here and there. So that's not a small amount of money to invest in a coach. What what has your experience been like? Like what was the first time you hired somebody to get help? Like was that a good experience? Had you just had like bunch of crazy experiences. I know we were talking a little bit about some of the ones that I didn't know about, and I'll let Zach share whatever he's comfortable with. But talk me through from the beginning, 2020 onward. What has your experience been working with coaches, signing up for business programs, whatever you've done before you and I started working together?
So I'll try and keep this short because this can be very
A
long.
little loaded
Um,
question there.
yeah. But when I first started, I instantly hired a mentor, right? And this was the point where I was still doing one on one and contemplating opening my own gym and still doing in person. And like the mentor I hired there really focused on in person, like growing a gym, even though I didn't even have a gym. So worked with them. It was a very good experience, but then over time, I realized I actually enjoyed the online aspect even more because the nutrition, being able to combine the nutrition and the training together was awesome compared to personal training where I see that person for an hour. Yes, they get results, but I don't see the other 23 hours of the day. So that was good. And then
And with training, because I've worked with a personal trainer. I mean, I'm not right now just because of life right now, but I had worked with the same trainer for over 10 years, like mostly on. And so I think there's a ton of benefit to that. And I know there's a lot of work involved to show up at the gym, be there for the session. It's physically demanding. You're on your feet. So I can see how that would not be the thing that you necessarily want all of your money to come from, especially, if you have any other things going on in your life that you'd like to put that time and energy towards.
yeah. And I mean, the other aspect of personal training was I would get to the gym, have clients 5 to like 9 a.m., have that little break, do my own workout, and then it would be clients from like 2 to 7, 2 to 8, and repeat that for the rest of the week. It was draining,
Yeah.
right? So reducing the amount of hours going to online, 2021, 2020 was when I shifted and like hired my first online coach. When, I feel like a lot of online coaches popped up as well. Same as, nutrition coaches. But couple good experiences, couple not so great experiences. More more of them being not great. One of them that you and I were talking about, before we hopped on this call, just like very slimy, salesy, just the things he was pushing. And I was like, hey, I don't think this is a good fit anymore. Like, I don't like the way you're taking this. And found out that he had, 20 plus people then trying to sue him because malpractice and just doing things the wrong way. So even after that, I took like 6 to 8 months off, no mentor. And
Wait,
then
I want to pause for a second. He just kind of glossed over that when he was telling me about it before we hit record. My jaw was like on the floor because I didn't know that he had participated in, any sort of group lawsuit, which I have heard that happening before. So it's actually not as uncommon as people might think. That said, it's very serious and very stressful, as you and I were talking about. Would you be willing to share any examples of what was going on or what you were being told to do or anything that was like big red flags for you that created that whole situation?
yeah, so there's a couple things. One of them being like the DMs and just the way you approach it with people. There was also an offer or the way, so it was framed a certain way to like bring followers in, get them to opt into something as like a scholarship, and then get them on a sales call, and then completely like 180 at the end when you have that buy-in. And I was like, this is just not something I'm
So,
doing.
like, telling them that they were gonna be in, like, the running for a scholarship, and then
Yes.
I feel like I've heard
Basically,
about that before.
yeah, it was. I feel like it was a big thing in 2021,
Mm.
and that
Hopefully,
was
it's
like
not a
when.
thing anymore, but
No, it's not. Um, but yeah, saw that and instantly was like, hey, this is not a good fit. Also, the things that were promised when we initially started working together, he let go his entire team, didn't tell anyone. The deliverable that I was supposed to get was not happening. Everything just
so
like,
I've heard that before from so many people where there were deliverables promised in their contract that just literally were not provided. And then they would go to the
yeah,
coach and be like, "Am I gonna get this?" And they would say, "Oh, blah, 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 no, sorry." And then they're like, "Well, can I get a refund then?" And the person's like, "No refund." Like that is that
yeah.
what happened to you?
It was without going too much into it. They basically breached the contract multiple ways, right? With not holding up to the deliverables, but then
Yeah.
also we were on a Zoom call. I told him straight up, I was like, hey, this isn't a good fit. I don't think we should work together anymore. Everything was good, right? Got off the Zoom call. 4 days later, got an email saying, hey, I feel like, it's like I still saw you on social media promoting blah blah, which I never said I was not going to promote my business or anymore like
Oh, that you're
nutrition coaching.
quitting.
Yeah, I'm not quitting business. I'm quitting working with you. And they were just like, hey, I feel like you lied to me on this call, blah, blah, blah. He threatened to sue me and take me to small claims court and told me, hey, if you just pay out 15 grand, I'll just let this go. Yeah, just a small amount of 15 grand, just pay that off.
God.
And yeah, that's when the rest of it came up. And I, reached out to an old friend and they were like, hey, yeah, here's the lawyer that we're all using, 20 plus of us. So yeah, ended up not having to pay, paid for a lawyer, but still less than 15 grand.
Not 15 grand. It's like,
Was not 15 grand.
yeah. Oh my God. Well, okay. So there was that. And one could say that after that experience, it would be reasonable to not spend any more money on business coaching. So then
Yes.
what happened?
So then took a bunch of time off and then again found somebody that like I trusted, was recommended through somebody else. Didn't have a terrible experience with them, but kind of like you and I had talked about, it was not the best fit and like wasn't the best coaching, as in it wasn't very specific. It was, more like done for you content. And then as you get further into it, you're like, hey, this is super generic and not helping. I didn't sign any
Mhm.
clients within the period of time that I worked together with them, and it was not cheap. And then after that, took more time off and was finally like, hey, this is my last shot. And then that's when I found you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I didn't ruin the experience for any future support because that would have. I mean, I guess I'm glad you found me and had a good experience. So, with the experience that you had right before mine, I know that we have like a little case study on you in my mini course on how to get premium clients every week, and in that you had said you had invested about 18,000 over the course of 6 months and didn't get any ROI from that. So, what you said, was that the one that was giving you done for you content, or what was the actual strategy that wasn't working? Because I'm like, I mean, maybe just selfishly, I want to know what people are teaching that's like scaring all the people in my audience away from coaches, but also this might be helpful for other people to hear who are trying these tactics and they're not working. And I think the actual big issue is that when they're doing this stuff and it's not working and they see all the you know, shiny, my client's making $1 million, blah, blah. They think, well, I must be the problem. There must be something wrong with me. I must not be cut out for this. I guess I should just quit my business. And I had mentioned this to you before we hit record that ultimately my goal with these case studies is to really inspire people for what they can accomplish. And, we've all had bad investment experiences. I've had my own that, you know, in hindsight would have not done again necessarily. But I have never had the experience where I thought, well, maybe I just can't be successful because their methods are not working for me. But that said, I do think there's a lot of people who are maybe having that experience of like, maybe something's wrong with me. Cause I would imagine with you, with the experience of like, I just invested in this, I'm following their instructions and I'm doing the work and it's, $0 ROI. I could see if you didn't have a growth mindset, like I'm sure you do, you might start to say, well, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe that's why this isn't working. So, first of all, did you ever have that thought? Second of all, whether you did or not, what was the actual strategies that were not working that, maybe somebody else would think is a them problem versus a strategy problem?
Yeah, I 100% had that thought many, many times, and I'm sure there's many other coaches that have that thought too, because you're like putting in the work, it's not working, and you're like, it's you go, maybe too far of like, oh, people just don't care. I'm not good enough for this, blah, blah, blah. But I think the other piece of it too is it was a little like more of the done for you content. So it was a little more generic. But I think the other piece too was a lot of like, hey, this is working right now of school groups. I don't know if you remember when
Yeah.
school became the big thing and like do the lower ticket, get people into this, and then they see the value there, and then it leads to, them signing up for longer term, which it was like also the other aspects of go on Facebook, add X amount of friends a day, let's start LinkedIn because you work with busy professionals, start messaging on LinkedIn. And again, I was like, this is just not true to me. Feels terrible,
Yeah.
feels gross.
I will say content creation on LinkedIn is a strategy. I'm not saying you need to do it, but it is something if somebody works with that particular audience that maybe that is the platform, but not friend requesting random people that they don't know. I don't
Yeah.
get the whole Facebook. I've had multiple clients come into NBA where they're like, "Oh, I was told to friend request X number of people on Facebook every day." I'm like, "Well, first of all, that can get you like literally banned from Facebook if you do it too much. Second of all, I mean, even the one client that was taught that she's a parent coach for parents of teens that are having trouble with, their teen. And I'm like, how creepy is that to go like friend request someone and be like, "Oh, I see you have kids. How's your parenting going?" Right? It just seems so
Right.
invasive.
Yeah. It just, none of it felt good. And it was also, in a way, trying to focus on like 10 things at once and not
Yeah.
being great at any of them.
Mhm.
I had never used school and then they like, just starting up this brand new program on school, creating the modules and the content. And, I thought it was great. I got 18 people in it and it was low ticket, but then my coaching got put on the not the back burner, but like quality starts to decline because you're working way more and putting things together and then trying to take care of the lower ticket because you want to scale them up. Um,
Mhm.
and throughout the process, I'm uploading things into school and then they're reaching out of like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's not what I thought it was. You haven't put anything in. And I'm like, I've been putting in content and things for you to do for the past 6 weeks, but realize they don't get notified when this happens.
Oh my gosh.
So, like, just because of the way I organize things on school, which was my fault because I didn't know how to use Hit, it's just like the quality goes down for them. It's frustrating for me. So it's trying to handle 10 things at once and like, hey, what's working now in that shiny new object?
Mhm. I'm so glad you pointed that out because that's actually one of the big focuses of the little mini course that I put together. If anyone's interested in seeing it, just DM me the word info, INFO on Instagram and you can get the link. But so much of that little mini training is about simplifying things and focusing and going all in on one offer, which for you, you have your high ticket coaching offer and really just doing what is necessary to sell and deliver that and not having, like you said, like a low ticket thing that's then trying to get them into and I'm not anti low ticket. I think low ticket done well can be nice, but if it's at the expense of selling your high ticket thing, that's where you run into a problem. And so if you're trying to juggle 5 different social platforms and DMing 50 people a day and, uploading things for your low ticket thing and then trying to sell those people into the high ticket thing versus if you just had one primary platform, one primary sales mechanism, one offer, which for most people, the high ticket, higher touch is the easiest thing to sell because that's what a lot of people will pay for. And you don't have to have volume for that. Is that as far as I know, that's the model that you're doing now. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, all one-on-one, high ticket. I don't have any lower ticket offer.
Yeah. So how has that shift affected your day to day or even your week to week enjoyment of business, I guess I would say? Because it sounds like this other situation would have gotten pretty tiring, frustrating. You don't feel like you're doing a good job with your clients, which that's always a bummer when you have that experience. And especially when you care about the results people are getting
Right.
and that's what they're telling you, like that sucks. Like you don't want to have that experience. So, how has the simplicity that we've created with you or you've created, based on our guidance, how has that affected your day-to-day enjoyment of your business?
Sure, I mean, it's affected it tremendously, like, in a positive way, right? I feel like I can focus on my clients, and then I don't go into the day of, like, I have to add X amount of people on Facebook and overwhelmed by what I have to do, and now it's like, these are the inputs I'm gonna do that I know are gonna get a return versus let me do 50 things and none of them get a return.
Mhm. And then you don't even know which thing is worth cutting if nothing's getting a return, right? If it's like at least one of them was showing promise, you would have some direction. But if it's like this is all equally ineffective, that can get really tiring very quickly.
Yeah, and even going into that, like, I wasn't a fan of low ticket just because I enjoy the one-on-one aspect and, like, getting on Zoom calls and talking to the individual and just, like, learning more about them and helping them to their specific day in life. Again, not to say there's anything wrong with group, I think they can be very beneficial, but it just wasn't for me.
Mhm.
So I also just kind of, like, went into that not loving it, but again, you hearing it from a business coach and it makes sense. Surface level, give them value at a lower cost, and then they buy in at a higher cost.
Mhm.
But I think I didn't love it as much as I do one-on-one, so obviously quality and frustration builds up.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, then if you give them something at a low ticket that isn't what they expected, it's actually preventing them from buying, which maybe if you had just given them something free that was, very targeted and very specifically designed to go to the next, the actual paid offer, they might have had a better experience even though it was free. So, I do
Yeah.
think, the low ticket thing, I know there's lots of people who do it really well, and I think for most solopreneurs it's hard to balance that, especially if your primary offer is one-on-one, because it's like, you already have a lot of time and energy going towards serving your clients and serving them well. The last thing you need is now this, like, big group of, I don't even know who these people are. I don't know if they're getting notifications. Like, you almost need a team member to help with that if you're gonna have an offer that requires that kind of delivery.
Yeah, yeah, I can't imagine still trying to keep up with that because, again, even as you keep them in that lower ticket offer, you can't just give them the same stuff when they join and then just keep it the same forever.
Mhm.
You have to keep progressing, which there is a point where I'm like, I need to know the specific person and their day-to-day struggles to
Mhm.
help them beyond this. We have to
Mhm.
be more vague and generic in the group offer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and even with a group offer, if it's a higher price group and you have a small number of people in it, you can still know people. Like, I mean, even for the NBA program, I don't work one-on-one with everybody. Obviously, I did some with you before you joined NBA, but I still know people. I still know their names. I still know their business. Like, it's not like this just sea of faces that I'm like, I don't know who these people are. But if that's your experience with low ticket, because you don't really have that interaction with people, it's like, how are you supposed to create something that feels personal for them?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was the same thing of, like, learning school in a new platform.
Hmm.
So, like, something that is brand new to them is also brand new to me. So the interaction of, I run everything through my own coaching app where I talk to them through messages and face to face, but school, I'm like, I don't even know how to use this. If somebody reaches out, I answer them. They don't even see the message. It was chaos.
Yeah.
And then kind of like you had said a little bit ago is like after that, and I shut down the low ticket offer, right? I had 18 people in that, and then I felt like I wasted those 18 people that trusted me, and now they go through that low ticket offer, and like I lose that trust because the
Mhm.
quality was so low.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to make a really high quality low ticket thing unless that's literally your only offer.
Yeah.
So, just to wrap things up, I would love to hear from you to just share with our audience because I think a lot of people listening are either newer business owners who maybe are a little intimidated by the market that they're entering into. They're not entering into a 2020 market. They're entering into a 2025 market, which is, very different. And then the people who honestly, I've been having this conversation with a lot of people where they've been in business for a while, even beyond 5 years, like, 8, 10 years. And they're really struggling because of how many things are no longer the way that they were when they started their business, which I've had to really adapt a lot myself, even to the way that the industry has changed. What advice or encouragement do you have for people who might be in the situation you were in last year where you're putting all this money, you're putting all this time, you really care about what you're doing, and you're not either getting the results that you're capable of? I know for you, you were seeing a pretty steep decline in your revenue when we met. What advice or encouragement do you have for people that might be in that same situation that you were in a year ago?
I think one of the biggest things would be focus on retention. Retention is like everything. Because even when you have those months where, say, you don't even sign a client, so you go 2 months without signing a client, you at least have that retention and the recurring revenue
Mhm.
to keep you running as a business. Versus, when I first started, instead of a longer term program, it was still high ticket, but it was only 9 weeks, right? So every 9 weeks, you're having to show the value within that 9 weeks and then resell them onto a continuity offer longer term, which is like its own stressor. So not trying to like, yeah, I know this number of like 15, 20,000, 20,000 plus months is like a lot of generic goals or the number you hear a lot. Most people think it's like, oh, I'm going to sign an extra 8 to 10 people this month and that'll achieve it. But just like slowly chipping away each month of 1 to 2 people and
Mhm.
then retention is way more important than just constantly signing and losing.
Yeah. And with retention, you said you used to sell, you said 9 week
Yeah, it was a nine
offer?
weeks.
What have you changed it to?
So I went to a 6 month. I was
Okay.
like massive difference,
Mhm.
which I prefer, right?
Mhm.
Because it just takes the stress away from it of, one, it takes long. And the way I coach and my beliefs is I don't think 9 weeks is enough for anybody. So 6 months, which also just kind of reduces that stress of, okay, in 9 weeks, I need to try and, reduce this person or show so much value in the 9 weeks to where, they stay with me.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, going to a 6 month was the best decision.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you said retention and then the 9 weeks thing, I was like, "Wait, I wanna hear exactly what you are doing." I think I knew it was at least like a 3-month program, but I feel like the 6-month thing for excuse me, especially for fat loss, muscle gain, habit change, all of that, it is a good amount of time because most people need some time to implement the changes. It's not gonna be a straight line. I mean, it's the same thing with business coaching, right? It's very rare that anybody's gonna just, like, go from 0 to 10K months in 9 weeks or something, so that's why
Right.
we do 6 months as a minimum, and honestly, most people take longer than 6 months, much longer than 6 months, and so I think that longer term commitment is not necessarily significantly harder to sell, but it feels just more comfortable for you as the coach to know you have that time, you have that space to work with them. And it's not this like pressure to, like you said, deliver all this value in a short period of time, which is actually very difficult to do in the health space.
Yeah. Very difficult because then you're trying to find that fine line of, I don't want to overwhelm this brand new client,
Hmm.
but I also need to make sure I'm showing enough value to where they don't just sign up and they're like, this is it.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah. And the 6 month, I think the biggest thing I've noticed is it's almost even more beneficial and they see more value because they go through their own seasons, right? Of maybe work gets crazier around the holidays or less crazy. Travel happens more during the summer for them. So like they understand that those their nutrition patterns change throughout the year and they can see those fluctuations instead of that 9 week, a lot of people can stick to something for 6, 9 weeks.
Yeah. Or if they have a 9-week commitment and 2 of those weeks where they got sick or something, it's like now you've just lost like almost a quarter of your your time together. It's
Yes, which also experienced.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I definitely think my philosophy is the least amount of time for the best possible outcome for people. So I know that you probably work with people more than 6 months. Like I said, I have on and off worked with my trainer for 10 years. I did not sign up for a 10-year offer with him, but 6 months is probably enough time to get solid results that are maintainable, and I bet there's more you can do beyond 6 months with people.
Yeah. Going back into the question you had earlier about business and like some recommendations, this is something that I track. So like length of engagement of how long a client's with me, and mine's a year and 4 months. So like knowing that again is very good because then you can see that client's value or a potential client's value over that year and 4 months. And then understanding, if your length of engagement is 3, 4 months, then is it a coaching thing or you need to change around the program and the way you're helping the client?
Mhm. Or even just knowing, because I know, like, you're doing ads with us right now, you might be a little bit more willing to invest more to get the client in the first place, so, like, the cost of acquisition, because your average client stays a year plus versus it being like, if it was the 9-week program and you're churn and burning through all of it, then, okay,
Right.
then you don't wanna spend as much to acquire a client because you don't even know if they'll be around after 9 weeks. So, I do think that data can help with decisions around even how to invest your money in acquiring clients. Any other advice, encouragement for people who are having their 2024 Zach experience?
Um, I mean, the only thing I can say is just it's gonna take much longer than you think. Like,
Love
probably
it.
double or triple it.
Well, and
So,
I do think one of the things that's come up for me recently is realizing that there is really no set it and forget it with business. And I do think a lot of people want that experience of, oh, I did this program and I did the work and I made my offer and I put content out there and now it's just working forever. And there are definitely foundational things that will continue to work. Like I think your niche specificity, the messaging, it's not like that's all of a sudden going to be like not relevant to people anymore. The exact way that you communicate with them, the exact way you deliver your service, the exact, platform you're using, that can change. That can, adapt to the market. And my feeling is with the simplicity of the business that you have now, you have a lot more bandwidth to make those adaptations than if you're trying to do 80 different things at the same time to run your business. So that simplicity of the offer, who you work with, how you help them, keeping that, and the nice thing for the health space is that doesn't necessarily change a ton. I mean, I know with like GLP-1s and stuff, there are things that you guys have to adapt to, but it's not like everything's just all of a sudden different about how human bodies work, right? Like that's one thing that's pretty stable in general. So getting all that nailed in, so then any adaptation to technology is so much easier because you're not reinventing the wheel all the time. You really have that foundation to work from. So even if it takes a while, I feel like it's better for it to be slow build, do the foundational work, actually understand your audience and what they want help with and what your best offer is based on your skill set is versus some of these other flash in the pan, oh, this is what's working now kind of tactics that they're not irrelevant, but if it only works for 2 weeks, then like, is that really that valuable to learn or is it you're just chasing
right.
tactics every other week?
Yeah. And kinda like you said, I think if you're like a macros coach and just custom strength training programs, which I know some of my wording said that, even though it wasn't the way I was coaching, like AI can do that now. You can
Mhm.
literally just have it write you a meal plan.
Mm.
So making sure that you're being specific and truly helping someone and not just cookie cutter generic plans. So that kind of goes into that specificity piece we
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah. I mean, kind of coming full circle with the fact that your niche is very crowded. What makes you stand out from any other nutrition and strength training coach out there? That specificity has to exist because otherwise, like you said, either you're just going to blend in with everybody else, or at this point, AI could actually replace that if you're not
Right.
really specific about what sets you apart from going on ChatGPT and getting those answers. So, we're all we're all just adapting to the AI thing. I feel like that's the one area of technology that is moving very, very fast and is very difficult to keep up with. And the nice thing is humans still buy from humans. They still want the human experience. They still want the person who knows them, knows their, spouse's name, knows how many kids they have. Like that kind of thing really isn't replaceable with AI. And so I feel like the kind of offer that you created where you do have that high touch, very, I don't want to say intimate, but you're very connected with your clients. That is something that is unlikely to get replaced by AI anytime soon and maybe ever because most people want a human. They don't want, a software that's responding to them.
Right. Which is like we talked about earlier, when I respond in the DMs, like I will send them a video with my face on it. So they see a human and it's not just I've gotten messages from hundreds of other business coaches, or it's like, I love how you help busy professionals and love the work you do. And it's like, I can see that it's AI, right? So just have the human connection
Yeah.
and stop just sending these like generated AI text to every single person.
Yeah. Well, you're inspiring me to start doing at least voice memos because I'm like, it has been challenging to find time to respond to DMs, but I feel like that recommendation to have the personal connection that can't be AI generated is actually really good because it is really easy to just create a message that goes out to 100 different people with the same exact information. Um,
Yeah.
well, Zach, I really appreciate your willingness to come on and just share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all the things that you've dealt with as, an online business owner who really cares about their clients, wants to do a good job, and wants to make good money. You don't have to choose between being ethical and caring about people and also making great income as a health expert. So I just really appreciate your openness and willingness to trust me, trust now I know you're working with my husband, like trust us to serve you in a way that is appropriate for you. That is something that I don't take lightly. So I really appreciate it. And I know, having been through some of the maybe not so healthy relationships with other coaches, I know it takes a lot to trust somebody else. So I really appreciate that you've been willing to trust me and my team to help you with this.
Yeah. You've been great. Thank you for having me on. This has been awesome. And I'm looking forward to continue working with you and Josh.
Awesome. So if anyone wants to connect with you, see what you're up to, see, what's working as far as like the content you're putting out, or just like, maybe they want some strength and nutrition coaching. Cause I know, online coaching is a lot easier when you're a busy CEO of a business. Where can they connect with you?
Instagram is my main place that I put content up. So it's at Fortified Strength, FORTIFIED, strength, all one word. And yeah, that's where I post most of my content.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you again for your candidness and sharing everything that you've been through in the last 5 years. And I will be very excited to potentially have you on for part two, or we can see what else you've been able to accomplish as you continue in this direction.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. And thanks everyone for hanging out with us. We'll see you here next week on the Nurse CEO podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and it brought you value, I would be so grateful if you would take a minute to leave a review over on iTunes. Your feedback not only helps more amazing coaches and practitioners like you find the show, it also helps me keep creating the kind of content that you want more of. Just head over to Apple Podcasts, search for the Nourished CEO podcast, scroll down and tap that write a review button. It only takes a minute and it means the world to me. Thanks again for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.